Yes, you're wanting to know what is the purpose of the shift in terms of knowing. What is the purpose of knowing about the shift prior to the events? When, if you get time to be able to be updated and upgraded on the ships, or even when you're on the new earth, why do people need to know future events when it distracts? It is mostly to give you hope and to be able to help those intuitive people understand what is happening and why. Otherwise, we saw way too many exit points. So all of the higher frequency souls who are capable of great things all could use their free will to try to make exit points because they were struggling with the ludicrousness of what is happening here and now. Those intuitive people needed the truth. And we were seeing many of them, and this is what we saw and observed with the first wave volunteers. Many of them made exit points because they were not privy to the information of what they were supposed to be doing and why. And so we've made amends and adjustments. And this is why we have done the soul exchange, as you call walk-ins and walkouts, for those, so that lifetime is still occurring and those contracts with other people are still being played out, but the original souls may not be occupying those bodies, and that is fine. Everyone has choices to stop the game of life. But just because a soul chooses to leave the game of life does not mean that the player is no longer playing. The player nearly has a new upgraded soul essence that is willing to take on the duties and the calling and the mission of that soul to be able to engage and interact and to be able to complete the contracts that you have with others. And so all is well. So this is the reason why many people need to be awoken to the truth. Yes, you all could have been updated on your way to the new earth, but many intuitive people wanted to know this before many people tried to make exit points. And so we're feeling people saying, well, what about so-and-so who had an exit point through suicide? Couldn't you have saved them? And we are saying some exit points through suicide is a social contract to have with others to be able to awaken you to the social pressures of the mental health imbalances that are happening on this planet through injustices of various degrees. And so we can say many people who have had many different lifetimes here and they have not experienced the one exit point of suicide. This is their preference this time. It's a bold choice. And as there is no karma now on your 3D realm that is accruing all of these extra experiences that are not going to be impacted on your soul. It's once conceived to be a very negative thing to shorten your life contract through suicide. And we are saying from our perspective, it is a very valid option. However, for those who have this predetermined exit point, this is granted because it is not an accident. It is a well thought out plan from all who have to experience it. Potentially, there was a family member in a different lifetime who committed suicide, and they want to now feel that impact of loss now. And so a soul that didn't want to have a full life contract here to see out the end, they got to help teach help to show others the impacts of suicide. Life contracts, again, always is life contracts. There's not much that happens without our approval now, because it is so crucial and so important. Who is here and who is doing what here and why and how. We need all beings to be of service. And we know that there are many, 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 many various degrees of distraction for those who are here. The hardest one for them is to step into faith and trust. And so they will do everything possible to have the lack of both of those perspectives. And that is a challenging perspective to have, because what are you left with? When you do not have faith and trust in the metaphysical realm or the spiritual realm, you only then clearly can have faith and trust in your 3D realities. And that is a very interesting one to have faith and trust in. And so therefore you can see why, again, there are many people who are privy to the information about this shift occurring and what 3D will eventually evolve into. And so from our perspective, it makes great sense. And so we understand why many people keep questioning, what is the significance of learning this information now? For some, just being able to hear this information does give them a ray of hope. And so they know it's all worth it. Whatever their struggles are, whatever their challenges are, there is good things coming. Just like those who hold on to their religious beliefs, believing that they will go to heaven and those who smite them will go to hell. It is very interesting how many people feel very pleased to cast their friends and family to go to hell. And it is like seeking revenge. It is interesting how many religious folk can feel quite comfortable in condemning their friends and other people to be going to hell. They feel very righteous with that. And that's a choice that they once again will cast on. They will not realize the impact and the significance of trying to wish hell on others. They may say they will let God judge you, but ultimately when they are saying that, they are happily judging you. And this is not a surprise. And of course, this is not for all, but this is a possibility that many people have to spiritually mature out of. And so many are still trying to save your souls by trying to indoctrinate you into their belief systems because they want to save you. And we could say the same for people who think that they need to tell people about the new earth. You do not need to know or believe or hear about the new earth for you to discover yourself on the new earth. It is not a belief system that you have to have. It's a frequency vibrations that gain you access to this and a life contract to be able to do such. And so it is not an accident who goes to the new earth. And it's not an accident who cannot manage to get to the new earth. It is all extremely orchestrated and purposeful, and we say all systems and structures to and for this shift is well on its way. And we are so grateful for this, because we must say that our roles and responsibilities to help support this planet was one privilege that we got to do. And a less of a inspired role is to watch humanity make the same mistakes on repeat. We want to dramatize this and say for eons, but in reality it is not. But it is a sharp reminder to all beings who are supporting this planet how successful the corruption and the manipulation and the control agenda has been. and why we can be very grateful for the lack of war and destruction on this planet compared to other planets. This is a more civilized planet in some degree compared to other planets who have not been able to have their full extension, full experience on their planets. Some planets, of course, have had their natural cycles, and the planet itself has given way to disbalance and disharmony. And then, of course, other planets have been destroyed through the sheer focus and free will of other beings who are reckless with their technology and their power and manipulation. And so it is a lot to process as we are trying to be an organization of peace and harmony and to hold collectives accountable. And yet it is strange for you to think that higher dimensional beings can still be squabbling over control and positions and power. It's a different form because it is about ownership of places to live and to habit. And so you get a few planets that have got disbalance and disharmony, either through other collectives and other beings waging what you could call egos and war, versus others who need to be evacuated because of the disbalance of the planet naturally, or other neighboring disbalance of planets naturally have meant a whole bunch needed to be evacuated. There's many reasons why planets need to be evacuated. And it's not just for them being attacked. And this is all as well. And so we know the vehicle is wanting to understand, is it possible that those people who are awoken to this information now, who know that there are many other lifetimes, and it's simply a merging of the soul from one body to another body with ease and grace, and it really isn't anything more than that. She is wanting to know if people who are awoken to spirituality, who are still here, in which they deem it sometimes stuck here, being prisoners here to this planet as they watch people choose constantly not to be morally respectful to each other and have compassion and considerations for each other. She was wondering, as half of a joke, had she done something bad in another lifetime off planet to deserve being trapped here as a prisoner on this planet? She has never truly considered this a prison planet at all. But while she is patiently waiting for many to notice, we can remind her, and she already knows this, that we are giving many opportunities for people to awaken naturally. And as they keep choosing to not respect or have faith or trust in awakening, because it is a big awakening position and perspective to be in. It is not just a few simple things that have been misleading humanity. It is almost everything that has been misleading humanity. So it is a big deal to suddenly awaken to the true agendas, the true information, and notice the true disinformation. And while so many people are still carrying such traumas from so many different lifetimes and still choosing to follow the corruption, which is not empowering them enough to be able to release the old experiences from other lifetimes, which they didn't quite get right. And so they keep coming back and back and back, hoping to be able to overcome it this time. And so each time they choose to come down to have these lives, They do not get the privilege of being able to keep their veil. No one truly wants to keep their veil because it would be maddening to know you are that deep in disconnection and other agendas. So you get to come down with higher frequency. And with each generation that comes down, you are holding higher frequency, which then does allow you to have awakenings faster. But you still want to have certain lessons and experiences to be able to overcome, remembering that your higher self, remembering your subconscious is just merely a fraction of your higher self. And as we have said many times, you are multidimensional beings. You are a fraction of your subconscious and therefore a fraction of your higher self. While you're all connected as one, you're all facets to each other. And so while there is no true ranking of who's the best and who's the worst, you're merely serving out the opportunities and experiences to learn on each dimension. All lessons are equal in lessons and value and respect. When you're all part of Source, there is no one ahead and no one behind. However, when there is a bigger push to raise this frequency vibrations enough for the shift to occur. So the reason why the shift can occur when there is more frequency vibrations on this planet is because it helps each individual who is still stuck in density to be uplifted, to then be able to be gently guided and supported to acknowledge their own truths, their own intuition, and empower themselves enough to be able to start thinking freely for themselves. There has to be a higher consciousness than the current social standard consciousness. You must be able to be triggered into over and above and beyond the social standard consciousness. And so here is the predicament. Those who are not wanting humanity to expand their consciousness so they can shift, keeping you feeling like you are socially consciously aware of all. And so they give you those pet projects to worry about, certain wars, certain environmental issues, and the such. So you feel like you are a part of the inner circle of knowledge and wisdom to truly ponder and consider the state of the world. But we want to say that there's many things that they're still distracting you from, like the real truth of the nuclear wastage that is happening on many oceans around now. It has been seeping out for so long now. It is truly part of the poisoning of the waters, and your fish are struggling and suffering at a rapid rate. You thought it was going to be the overfishing of fish that would cause the demise of those populations, but truly it has been the pollution, the nuclear pollution wastage that is pouring and has been pouring out for many years into the ocean does have significant, profound effects. And so this is a problem. And as the food chain's starting to break down, that is another problem. It's not just the fish that no longer there are the problem. The whole ecosystems and all the different aspects are being broken down. So many people think it will be one day the shift will occur. But when you have noticed and truly been aware of what's happening to this entire planet, you will see all breaking downs of ecosystems to various degrees. You trust that they're still there and working, but that is merely an illusion. And so it has given the trees more responsibility to provide more stability, as many animals have chosen to exit and no longer be of service to this planet. because it was not inhabitable for them anymore. And so they've come either to heal from them, to heal themselves when they have exited, to come back as different aspects, to come back and support. And we're seeing many of the animals who wanted to come and support and raise their frequency vibrations, but were no longer able to inhabit this planet, have chosen to come back, even as a simple weed, to be able to just be here and hold that frequency. Many of you still assume and judge a simple weed as being a low vibrational nothing and of something of no significant value. And we are wanting to say, potentially the most advanced higher frequency vibrational being is contained within what your conception of a weed is. And so we understand many of you still need to judge, and that's making some very interesting assumptions that don't serve you anymore. But because you still think that humans are the most biggest priority here and the most advanced beings here, sometimes you would not be able to stop and honor and acknowledge a weed for its full soul essence. Many of you have not even considered that the plants and trees actually do have soul beings in there, being of service, watching and experiencing and witnessing all that is going on, and often reporting back to us because they have a better bridge of communications, because they don't have blocks and limitations and self-sabotage. They are not requiring those for their life lessons and experiences here on the earth. And so they wanted to be of service any way they could. And so this is why you may seem to feel that there is an abundance of weeds more than plants. And that may be another lesson for you to be able to respect all life. And while you play God, while you weed your garden, we would like to say with love, consider all actions that you are doing. We understand that you may have preferences to certain plants and that you may not see the beauty in a weed, but you can talk to that soul essence. It doesn't mind. And potentially it's saying, oh, yes, thank you. Pull me up now. I think I'm done. I think I'm done being here to be of service. It wasn't going to be a long life. I didn't want to be an oak tree. I wanted to be a simple weed, but thank you for acknowledging me, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. And now with that, I will depart and go with grace and joy. So it is not brutal murder, and often it is contracts. But your weeds in your garden would love to be appreciated and acknowledged, because it's been helping you. It has been there holding its higher frequency to be able to support you, even though you may not notice it until the very day that you remove it from your garden. And it is all well. It is all well. There is no emotional hardships. There is no judgment, and there is certainly no karma. But we're wanting to let you know how much help and support you truly are getting all around at this important time. We understand that we have said the shift is soon many times, and we've been saying this for years, that it is soon, it is soon, it is soon, because it is soon. We are watching many people shift daily now, and this is purposeful and significant for them because they have done their duty. They have also decided to be uplifted, just like those weeds. Many people think that there is big numbers on this planet and that the population is gigantic. And that is an illusion. It hasn't been able to support that number of life for a very long time. But it is another way to make you all feel insignificant and just a tiny, 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 tiny drop of water in the ocean. And we are saying the numbers are to disempower you. Constantly on this earth, numbers are trying to disempower you. And that is not the true nature of the numbers. We use numbers for you as a way of communicating and giving you messages. But many use numbers against you to make you feel small, to make you feel insignificant. And we're saying, almost like trusting the mainstream media, don't trust any numbers that you are given for anything these days. This has been said a few times, but we want to remind you again that they don't want to empower the truth. They don't want to empower information that's going to uplift you and inspire you. And so they will suppress the numbers. They do not want you to think for a second that something is as powerful as it could be. And so they will suggest that only a few people will like something. Only a few people are following this. And this is not just the case for these videos, which gets shared out beyond the numbers. But this is the case for so many other things. So, what are you still holding full trust and faith with? 3D or the metaphysics, the spiritual realm, your teams and guides who are seeing and observing all and watching all forms of disinformation really still play out. And you will be surprised when you learn how much you have been manipulated. It's too extraordinary. It's too extraordinary because you still were quite naturally trusting beings who trust that everything is fair and honest, but it's a really unfair game now and has been for quite some time. And so we know that we need to keep having our communications with you to keep reminding you the illusion of this game, because some of you are taking it so seriously that you're over-densifying your thoughts, your mindsets, and yourselves and your approaches to life, because you are having full faith and trust that the 3D life that you fear is coming and coming fast. And while you're not seeing any true, real revolutions on this planet, you're still waiting for people to come and hold governments accountable. You're still thinking there's going to be new kings and queens. You still think there's going to be new leaders that are going to come and save the day, or old leaders coming and saving the day. And you're all aware that you're all trying your best to have the higher frequency to then allow humanity to have as much experiences and opportunities for being able to overcome past traumas and be able to master the range of the 3D emotions, to be able to experience all, to then be able to graduate and evolve. As we have said before, it may not always be complete for everyone when the evacuation needs to take place. This is why we have to ramp up and have a lot more dramatic experiences for people on this earth to experience now. And it's going to continue on now. And it must, because it needs to be so dramatic to get attention, to be able to focus. But do not worry, it will not last for long, because it cannot last for long. Humanity's attention for drama, while it is very strong, when it physically impacts you, when you no longer can live the way that you are normally living, that takes a big toll on your mental health. And it's only those advanced souls who are prepared to strive and work hard on the old earth to support those who are needing to feel this complete disempowerment of a broken down structures and systems with no actual gain of how do we once get our lives back to where it was. The whole old earth experience is to awaken people profoundly. It's not going to be pleasant. It is going to be very challenging. It will feel like you are being punished by a merciless God, or even worse, your perception of the devil. But it is not the case at all. It is profound karmic experiences from other lifetimes that are needing to be addressed and honored and experienced. And there needs to be so much experiences had. But as we say, you don't need to sit and wallow in that trauma for too long. You just need to experience it, match that density, and then allow it naturally to unfold. You can heal off planet, but you have to experience the intensity of it to be able to feel the impact of that yourself. It must be a personal experience that completely absorbs you. You may never be able to recover and overheal that, overcome that on this planet at this density. That is your homework to do, what you would consider the afterlife, or when you shift, or when you go to New Earth, or when you go to a home planet, or when you go to a simulation of another 3D planet, to be able to live out those experiences. As we have said, there is many things to say. And there are so many questions that you now have for us as you are making sure that all is well, and that we are consistent with our words, and that there is nothing that has dramatically changed. As you are feeling the shift in the tolerance level of the Arcturians, you know that is putting a lot of pressure on the Palladians now to really stop mucking around. And so the Palladians now have got a lot of their responsibilities and duties to step up. And accordingly, a whole lot of other collectives have also needed to ramp up their efforts. And it has been a big breaking decision for many as they succumb to the pressure that they've placed on self. And so, we are watching everyone make choices with their free will. But as we have said previously, this cannot sustain life for as long as you would assume. And the proof is all around you. And while people are not wanting to trust the governments and the food shortages and the extra prices, you're being triggered into lack and limitations. And there is always significance in those. And so it's a form of another lockdown, but a mental lockdown. We will go now, but we wanted you to have this information to process first before we continue on with the other information that we have for you. But all is well. We understand it's still so extraordinary, the information about the shift. But there is so much tangible proof now about it. You really need to merely just do a little bit of experiencing the reality of the real world and not what has been portrayed through other platforms or media or other people's observations. And so, yes, this vehicle is starting to get very tired. And that is fine. She is doing so much energy work at night that she is merely just here in body during the day to play her role and support those who may or may not be wanting to take their positions and their missions on Earth seriously. And so she is having to balance all, and all is well. But yes, she would like to be protected from those big egos that still seem to circle with their entitlement. And so we are going to protect her even more, because that is just unnecessary distractions for her. She has done well with them, and it's up to them to now have the responsibility and the respect for themselves and for others to mature into a more mature approach and respect to Gaia and to humanity. They are still distracting themselves with their own wounds and their own egos. But as she suspected, we have had a long time to prepare for this and prep for this. And from her perspective, if anyone could awaken, they could have done that now. And considering how much effort she puts in to her own information and to her own collection of awarenesses, there is really no excuse for anyone else to not be doing the same. But many people are still expecting handouts of information because they are not interested in doing any of the work themselves. And they are certainly not interested in trusting themselves or spending time empowering themselves. They're too busy in 3D. They're too busy worshipping 3D to be able to see what's right in front of them. And so we say this with love, but it is becoming a very dense drag now, as we are having to support more people who are still choosing constantly to dismiss it. And so often what the vehicle is feeling when she is having to deal with either dense people or egoic people who are still refusing to look, she is just not able to put in much energy now into those people who are just refusing to look or refusing to grow. And we feel the same way. And so it is not a judgment. It is just there's not enough time to pander to these people who are constantly choosing to not expand. And that takes its toll. It takes its toll on everybody. And so with much joy, we say we will block all, because they've made enough choices now. They have chosen to not step up. They have chosen not to empower themselves or empower humanity. And it's not a judgment. It is an observation of their demeanor and how they want to use this. So we will say farewell, as we know the vehicle's body is tired, but we want to confirm that all is well. All is absolutely well as we are wrapping up this experience, and it will be a very joyful conclusion to what has been.